Is your boss difficult to deal with sometimes?
What about your co-workers?
How do you handle a rough personality at work?
Melanie Billings-Yun took on this tough topic in her book, Beyond Dealmaking, 5 Steps to Negotiating Profitable Relationships. And Melanie joins us now with some 4 tips on surviving. But I have to ask you this first. Your book talks about how you don't have to be eloquent, you don't have to be tough to make this deal. Well, then what do you need to be?
Prepared.
Prepared, okay.
One word. A lot of people get confused and think that negotiation is the same thing you do when you go to the market and decide to bargain the cabbage down by 5 cents. It's a different game altogether. The person who comes in most prepared is the person who's going to do the best job.
But there are certain things that should not be said right off the bat in a negotiation, correct?
Well,
like I make this much money.
Don't show your card. You never show your cards, right?
Like I tell people never to lie, okay? But I tell my students who are looking for jobs, you don't need to say, I've been looking for a job for a year and you're the first person who's shown any interest in me whatsoever.
Please pick me.
No, I mean, there's many things you shouldn't say. You shouldn't also say rude things to the other person. And that's really what I'm getting to in this book. I think a lot of people have started confusing negotiation with something like a game, a poker game. And that's not it at all. You're actually talking to someone with the goal of working with them. And so if you're obnoxious, if you're aggressive, if you only focus on yourself, your ability to work with this person after the deal is going to be virtually impossible.
So decibels don't work. An aggressive stance and an aggressive posture is counterproductive.
It just shows you're out of control.
Okay.
You're desperate. You never want that. Well, some people, I think, feel like either you're born with it or you're not. But truth is, not everybody's born with it. It's how you craft everything.
Exactly. I mean, I've been working with people for 20 years now, helping them to become better negotiators. And quite honestly, some of them start out really bad. It's just learning some techniques, how not to panic.
And how do you not panic?
Be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared again.
I mean, let's go back to this aggressive boss. It amazes me how people are constantly shocked each time they meet a screamer. I mean, if it's the same boss and he always screams at you, I say, why the 5th time? Is it still like a big surprise? You know the guy's a screamer by now. It should no more be upsetting than trying to tickle yourself should be upsetting.
What if you have a screamer for a boss? How do you handle that?
Well, there are a few ways that you can handle it. One is just to let them finish, be utterly quiet while they do it. And as soon as they're done, you go back into whatever you're doing. You let them know they're doing it for a reason. They're doing it because they think it will have a positive effect. They'll get what they want. Once they learn that it's not getting them what they want, that it's having no effect at all, rather like a baby throwing a temper tantrum, they'll give up.
Don't feed into it.
Don't feed bears.
You know, there's almost a risk of just letting them have their way, though, in the sense that you take a dominant position in a situation. Like if you're just watching them, because it's almost like watching somebody bounce around in a rubber room.
Well, yes,
You know, like
absolutely. And pretty soon they'll notice that they're the only people bouncing.
You're right.
And it gets kind of embarrassing. They'll settle down.
Right.
Now, if they cross the line, then I would go a step farther. If they say something that's racially, sexually, or whatever, absolutely offensive, then in that case I would say something like, I'd appreciate it if we didn't use those kind of terms.
And there's always the HR department to go to after that.
Absolutely. Another thing that you can do that really helps a lot, I find that people, unless they really are using it as a technique, they don't mean to get out of control. So just say, do we need a break? Take a 5-minute break, they'll come back a lot
timeout,
calmer.
so to speak.
Yeah.
You can use that on your children as well.
But never say, do you need a break?
Do you need a break?
Okay.
Yeah,
it's never
even
that.
though you want to.
Yeah, that's right.
And just to say it just like that would feel so good.
You know, I mentioned right off the top, don't tell them what you make. And that is a key negotiating point as well, because you've given away your card. You've shown them your ace in the hole, right?
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, you need to be strategic in what you tell somebody. Absolutely. You never lie. If someone were to say, you know, how much do you make? Then you say, well, I don't think that's an appropriate thing to talk about right now. And we move on to the next thing. I'm not going to invent some story because, frankly, today, as you guys know, in the information business, you can find out anything. You tell a lie, you're going to get caught.
Right. Yeah, don't try it. In your book, I was reading through it, and there's a part about empathy and understanding, and you say empathy is a great bridge builder, and I think the best deal makers, the best people that are just so slick and so smooth, they can be like, oh yeah, and feel for you, and you don't even know that they're doing that.
Well, you don't want to be slick. You're exactly
Well,
right. You don't want to be slick about
you see it 10
at
minutes
all.
later, that kind of slick.
What you want, I mean, but you really do have to empathize with this person. I've walked in on disputes. I'm representing a client. That client has done something horrible to these people. I'm not going to say he's innocent. I will honestly say you have every reason to be mad at this guy. He has damaged you. I understand that. It's okay that you're mad. We're just here to settle the deal.
So if you're willing to make a concession, you're willing to make a negotiation. You've already given something in the negotiation. Which
I've given them some respect. That's one thing right there.
See,
I've given them some empathy.
I mean, you could use this at home, husband and wife, right here. This is a perfect example, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when we get in fights, you should think about how many times we use the word I,
Me,
without
me,
ever
me,
thinking,
right.
what is the other person hearing?
I've noticed this another technique that couples often resort to, probably in a damaging kind of way. It says, you always do this.
Oh,
Or you,
yes.
you always
Why do you always? Yeah, everybody
and,
knows
and
that.
no one does everything
Exactly.
always.
That is
It's
such
sometimes.
a perfect point. I always say stick to the facts. If I say you're always late, you are now not even hearing a word I'm saying. You're mentally calculating every single time you were not late. So I have to say, you were late 3 times in the last week. You can't fight me on that. You stay with facts. You never exaggerate. Once you exaggerate, you've weakened your position.
How about holding on to your ammo? A lot of people in an argument or in a negotiation will hold on to years worth of
Things will
memories.
come back from you don't even remember. All of a sudden, I have this arsenal, and you're going to hear it.
I don't think that's fair. I think once you've resolved it, and you move on. And what is the point of having a resolution? What is the point of having a deal, so to speak, if I believe you're going to be bringing that up the next time? Once we have an agreement, it's an agreement.
That's it, the end of it. But I think another important thing that you said respect. You were talking about in the workplace, but I think it really carries over to home too, is respecting that person. This can be a challenging argument, but it doesn't have to be personal and condescending.
You know, that, I suppose, has to be the word for our era right now, because coming back to the United States, I told you I've been living overseas for a while. That's the one thing that upsets me. I'm seeing such a lack of respect. People who just demonize the people that they disagree with, as if simply to disagree with them means that they're evil.
Could you be talking about the world of politics? Possibly,
Or
being here in
media,
D.C.?
Media, maybe.
Actually, I'm talking about the world of politics.
Yeah.
Very
and
much
you know,
the
there's an
world of
interesting thing, because I notice in this sort of polarization, that once the center gets lost and people gravitate to the 2 extremes of polarity, it gets more and more vicious. The center is gone, and so everybody's frame of reference becomes distorted. And
You can disagree, but you don't have to tear
The
somebody
vitriol
apart.
is worse.
I mean, the fact is, you can't argue someone into agreeing with you. You can't bully someone into agreeing with you. It's never going to happen. And once I say that you're a demon, I can't even make a deal with you, because then I'm saying to my own people, I've just made a deal with a demon.
Where do you go from there?
So you're stuck.
Melanie, thanks for coming in. The name of the book again, Beyond Dealmaking, 5 Steps to Negotiating Profitable Relationships. Good luck with your book.
Thank you very much.
Good to see
Thank
you.
both of you.
All right, Doug and I are going to step away right now for a sponsored segment, but when we come back,